Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode on Inspiring Educators. Today, we have another inspirational educational personality. She is Dr. Shunila Joy Chauhan. She's the principal of Witty International School, but that's just the designation that she holds right now. She's had an illustrious career in education, and she's made some real difference in education leadership as well as in education as a whole. So, Dr. Shunila, I welcome you to the podcast. And I would request you to please introduce yourself and share with the listeners what has been your journey, what really made Dr. Shunila Joy Chauhan who she is today. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. And yes, thank you for having me here. I'm Dr. Shunila Joy Chauhan, as you rightly pointed out, and principal of Witty International School, Mumbai, Pawan Bagh, that's in Malad. And about my journey as an educator, I would say that I'm still learning, and it's a beautiful journey, and looking forward to much more. As we popularly say, Yeh Dil Maange more, so it's never going to end. I hope. Yes, and yes.
So where did you start your education journey from? What was the motivation? Did it come like by choice? Did it come by chance? Was it one fine day, a light bulb moment, or was it a sustained thought which led you to finally reach education as a career?
Yes. So actually, my mother was a principal of a school.
Mm-hmm.
She was the principal of Christchurch School in Patna. And then after that, then we went on to East Africa, where my father was, since he was in the RBI, we were transferred over there.
Oh.
And so at that time, she was a teacher, an expat teacher in the International School of Tanganyika. So we've always grown up, my sister and myself, watching the teacher, whole scenario. Things have always been very different at home. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to teach, but in the middle did get diverted into thinking about maybe journalism. I wanted to write also. But finally, it was it was a complete heads up for education, the education sector. I wanted to teach. And that's how I landed up becoming a teacher, by observing and seeing the kind of love you get with children, how rewarding it is, And you always stay updated. I would say that. Absolutely. You can never grow old. I mean, at least mentally, you will never grow old with the children around you. There's something they will say that will change your whole mood if you had a bad day also, or whatever. Yeah. Or a perspective, a different perspective to things.
So you said you never get old, and that really takes me to the next question. We don't want to know how old you are, but we still want to know, when did you start and how did you start teaching, right?
Yes,
what was the first job? Which school, which part of the world? What was it?
So before I began formal teaching, I used to teach in classes, tutorials, because I was very good with French. Mm-hmm. So I began my journey. Yes, parlez-vous français, absolutely. So, but now I'm totally out of touch. It's like very rusty, but I did teach French at that point of time for a long time, in fact, for 5 years. And yes, so when I was with the tutorials, Lakhanpal tutorials, I used to go there after my 12th standard.
Wow.
And that, started off being I was a young teacher at that point, a student also. I enjoyed it, and so it was only natural when I joined City International School in Mumbai. Yes. So I was a founder teacher there. I learned a lot, and I also, it was the ICSE board. It was also became an English teacher there, and I was teaching Julius Caesar. And so these were my teaching methodologies were English with social studies. So that's what I was teaching, English also.
Wow.
And it was so nice to, solve the difficulties of children, make them get involved with actual learning, not just by rote, but by understanding. So teaching languages has another kind of, pleasure altogether, because there's a lot you can do to explore.
Absolutely. And we are talking about interdisciplinary education and intermingling of subjects today,
Yes,
but you were doing it back then, with
back then.
English and social sciences. And, it's like whenever I talk to, an educator who
Hmm.
does it for the motivation and love of education, they always
Yes.
tell me that, Rishabh, we've been doing these things way before they became, mainstream talking points, and it just came
Absolutely.
naturally. We did not have to go and read something to do that. It just felt so natural and so practical to do those things, which now people are learning
Yes.
as theories and implementing them, right?
Absolutely. I remember going for a morning walk and then looking for these feathers of different birds that, they leave behind feather or
Right.
some plant because I wanted to use it in something in my, practical session. And the school was also, they gave me a free hand. So I had a French room and I told the children, I took them there and I said, do what you want with it,
Yeah.
label it, make it colorful. So they used to love to come to the French room.
Wow.
And yes, it was way back in 2003. So I was in City International School in 2003. And that was the time of projectors, where we used to have this plastic slides where we used to write.
Right. So those OHTs, right? Over the head
Yes,
projectors, you put in
OHP with
something and
special
it will.
marker for that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then we finally moved from OHPs to your smart boards and all of those
Smart
things,
boards. Yes,
right?
that is another thing that we had to learn. So when I joined after 2008, I joined with your group of schools
Mm-hmm.
at Goregaon, Malad as an A-level teacher.
Okay.
Okay, so there I was teaching economics to IGCSE and A-levels in the Cambridge curriculum.
Wonderful.
And there began the next part of my journey. And here it was a technology-driven school where they were very friendly. So
Right.
here went a teacher who used to write her lesson plans to a school which was already using Microsoft Word, Excel, everything very comfortable.
Comfortably. Yeah.
So I recall this very exciting, I don't know, it was an enlightening moment also when I was working all night trying to draw, the demand curve, the elasticities of demand. So, they
Right.
have different angles and greater than one, less than one, and price
Absolutely.
elastic, etc. You must be knowing that.
Yeah.
So I did it, but when I showed it on the board, on the smart board, the things became completely flat.
Okay.
All the demand curves became flat because I
Hmm.
didn't use technology. I did it in a kind of a PowerPoint thing.
Right.
So one of my children, students, he got up. This was IDCSE grade 10, and he said, "Ma'am," they saw that I was so flustered, didn't know what to do, and I had worked hard, and I had to explain it. So they said, "Don't worry, ma'am. We'll do it for you for the next class, and we'll teach you how to do it."
Wow.
Yes, and there began my next journey, which was with the Vibgyor group of schools as a teacher for 5 years.
Wonderful. And
Yeah.
just the comfort with which you just shared this tells me also the depth of motivation that you have as a teacher, as an educator, wherein it's not about knowing everything and going to the class and always having the perfect lesson plan. It's about
Yes.
knowing that you can learn from everyone. In fact, you learn the maximum from your own students. And the moment a teacher accepts that reality, that I'm not there to really teach them new things, I'm there to curate and facilitate their learning, I think that's what
Absolutely.
really converts a teacher into a 21st century teacher, right? And
You're right.
thank you.
The 21st century teacher is a facilitator.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that story. Well, I'm sure for in these last so many years, and you mentioned 2003, so I'm saying even in the last 20 years, you must have met so many teachers and you must have met so many educators and educational leaders. And as we travel, as we meet all these people, our perception of a successful teacher keeps evolving, right?
Yes.
So what is your definition of a successful teacher today? Whom would you say that, okay, if I meet a teacher who is doing these things, I would consider them to be a successful teacher? What's your definition?
So first of all, a teacher needs to be approachable. Because that is really, important, because if you're not approachable, you may have many gold medals, you may be a very good, everything is in place. But if the students are scared to come to you and they cannot tell you that we have not understood, then there is you fail very miserably.
Right.
And a patient listener. So you have to be approachable, patient listener. It sometimes doesn't sound like, they sound like gods and goddesses all in one package. But we need that.
Right.
Educator needs to be patient because sometimes you tend to lose your cool. And there have been several times when I want to teach a particular chapter before, as per my year plan, I have this should be taught before, say, the three, something, it needs to be taught to set a base.
Right.
But if the students ask you that, but why don't you do it this way, you should be able to patiently explain. Not that because I told you, so you have to do it. That's it. So give them a kind of a reason it out with them. They can't be top down to, because everyone has a brain, right? So
Right,
give them that, credit them with the brain. So that, according to me, you need to be a little, you should be able to reason it out with the kids, with the students, and a good way of explaining. So good communication skills are necessary for a teacher. And I feel that we are not born with it, but we can develop it.
Absolutely.
So there's no harm. If we don't know it, we can ask. I mean, there's always someone to help you. Nowadays, of course, there are so many ways. You can just check online. But communication is important. Don't give vague instructions. Give them clear instructions. Tell them what are the expectations, and then what they also need to equip themselves to meet that particular objective.
Wow. So if I try to, rephrase it into a summary, what I hear is a successful teacher today would be somebody who becomes a partner in learning with the learner, instead of becoming somebody who, gives instructions and then does not want to follow it with why this instruction really matters. So, right, that would be somebody whom we can consider as a successful teacher.
You have put it so beautifully, actually. Yes.
Right. So, I always share this with all the leaders that even United Nations has identified this dearth of highly skilled teachers globally. Today, I'm not sure if you would know about this, there are around 70 million teachers in the world right now, 70 million, so say around 7 crore teachers. And according to United Nations, World Bank reports, the world requires another 70 million teachers globally in the next 5 to 7 years to be able to sustain the growing needs of education and growing needs of the population. So the harsh reality is that people do not want to become teachers, right? Everybody wants a good teacher for their kids, for their children, but nobody wants their children to become teachers, right? That's the harsh reality. So considering this, we've taken it upon ourselves on Suraasa that we want to motivate the next generations towards becoming high quality teachers. Now, if you had to share a message with these next generations, right, that why should they be looking at teaching as an option for their career, right? I know for sure, we have been talking to these hundreds and thousands of younger generation people who say that while money to survive, money to live a good life is a necessity, they do not want to be billionaires. Actually, they do not want to be millionaires. They are saying till the time we have a job which really challenges us, we are good to go. Yes. And the major problem that we see with teachers and teaching profession is either we create teachers as Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, and we say that teachers are gods, or we say teachers are not doing anything great. Anybody can be a teacher. And because we are talking about in these extremes, nobody likes to be a god or a nobody. Everybody wants a challenging job, but which is something that they can learn and they can grow with. So if you had to share a message which could really motivate these younger generations and tell them what teaching really is and how it is actually about solving a puzzle, about resolving a challenge, they might get attracted towards teaching. So your message for the next generations, ma'am, please.
Yes, so my message would be very clear. Nothing is more rewarding than being a teacher, because you actually shape the mind of a child who later on becomes an adult. And even today, when you are thinking of something difficult, like say uh, some rules or some definition, you remember that particular teacher. So I would remember my English teacher, Mrs. K, or my music teacher who told me that, this is the way to de-stress. You have to sing it like this. So teaching, teachers never go out of our minds. And so it's a rewarding profession in terms of, okay, maybe not financially, but that too, of course, people need to make those subtle changes in the policies, right?
Right.
Policies need to be changed. So we can't get into that part. We can only influence. But yes, as far as asking the next generation about why not teaching, I mean, it's just that you will never ever regret it. There will be times when you will be stressed. It's like any other job, but do it with dedication. Don't do it because you're thinking of, I want a summer break or winter break only. Yeah, it could be one of the reasons, but not, it should be the major reason. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Your students will never ignore you. Whether they see you in a mall or they see you 20 years later or any amount of years, they will always meet you. They won't hide. Whereas may not be so for every profession.
I understand. Thank you so much for sharing that. Ma'am, there's also this worldwide, teacher resignation spread that's happening right now, right? Teachers are moving out of the profession, not just in India. India is still a bit behind in that trend, but globally, when I'm talking about the Americas and the UKs and different Western countries, we see a lot of these trends wherein the governments are discussing with us on how we can bring them more teachers. Have you ever thought of quitting the teaching career? And if you did, how did you motivate yourself to stay in the career?
So honestly, I never thought of quitting teaching. I did take a short break, but that was only because of the family, the kids. I didn't think I could juggle everything because despite wanting to be a superwoman, I wasn't. So, yes, I did take a break, but it was always to come back to a full-fledged teaching job as soon as possible. So, yes.
So at that time, you were still a superwoman in making, and then you became a superwoman later.
Yeah, I mean to say that I felt that, teaching is the only thing that I feel that I could, add value. And if I would leave teaching, then those children would not be impacted. So how will that work? So I have to go back to teaching. I mean, I'm not that it's that I was the most wonderful teacher, but I feel that I could make it easier for them. So they would lose out on that.
Got it. Wonderful. And then the last question for this podcast now, everybody has those few people whom we look up to. They could be one of our friends, they could be one of our peers, they could be one of our mentors who've really helped us in becoming who we are. If you had to, identify any 3, 4, 5 to any number of those people whom you want to thank out aloud today and send a message this Women's Day saying that I'm now a woman of substance and in education leadership because you were there by my side or you were somebody who guided me. Who were those people and if you want us to send a message, record this message and share this part with them, we would love to do that as well. So if you could just name them and send a message to them, share a message for them, that would be great.
So first of all, I would like to thank my first colleague in school, and that was my co-teacher, Bhupinder. And I used to teach 3A, she used to teach 3B. And we worked together. She motivated me so much and encouraged me at every step of the way. And today I just want to say, Happy Women's Day. I always look up to her. I just met her recently about a month ago. And when we caught up, we were back to our class, back to those charts and all, the challenges we face, the way we grumble about small things and all. And I just want to wish Bhupinder a happy Women's Day because you're really, really one ideal person for me, always smiling. And she also makes incredible chai. And whenever I go to her place, she gives it to me with good and all that. I just love that. and love her for all that she has always been. Now she's no more a teacher. She's really busy with her family, but then it never dies, So she always, even if we go ordering something at the, say at a restaurant, she will end up instructing the waiter very carefully what all has to be put into it.
Wow.
So that's how she is.
I will make sure she receives the message.
And I want to thank someone who's a celebrity, and I know he is not going to see it, but for me, Mr. Raghuram Rajan has been my mentor. I always follow him on LinkedIn and every other place because of his economic policies, which help me to stay in touch with my subject, economics. So on Women's Day, I just know that, everyone in fact used to tell me that, you have this absolute fascination for following Mr. Raghuram Rajan sir. I said, yes, because whatever he does is making a lot of sense to me. So thank you. And on this Women's Day, I just want to thank, and I want to motivate all the ladies that it's always about the power which is within you. Don't ask that, should I do this? First, obviously, you have to think it out and then make up a plan of action, because things just don't happen by themselves, because it is you who's got to make it happen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was a real delight to speak to you, and I'm sure the listeners will enjoy a lot. Thank you so much to all the listeners who have spent this time in learning from Dr. Shunila Joy Chauhan, and I sign off for this session, and I'll see you guys soon again. Thank you.